Welcome, everyone. Hope you are all well out there. It's always very strange on webinars as there's just a number and you can't see any faces apart from obviously the lovely faces that are in front of me. But before we start, I just want to remind you of a couple of, we say ground rules, but I'm sure a lot of you who've attended already know them already, but we are in a webinar setting. So your camera and microphone will be muted automatically, so you won't be able to actually participate today. But just so you are aware, there is a Q&A function. Now, I just want to manage expectations because we've already had some wonderful questions in. I know that IVANA and Christina have stuff to say as well, so I just apologise already if we don't get to any questions in the Q&A because it's a very short session today. And, I just want to manage those expectations. We also do have live captioning. So if you do need live captioning, you should be able to turn that on. It does work best if you are on a desktop. So please do try and use that. And again, the best thing to do is kind of, sign in, sign out if you're having any problems. But luckily, we will be sending hopefully a recording around of this later, but more information on that very, very shortly. So welcome today to the Chubbuck Technique Q&A with IVANA Chubbuck and Christina Chong. I'm just going to give a little introduction to them both, even though they really don't need introductions. IVANA is the founder and director of the IVANA Chubbuck Studio and the creator of the cutting edge and widely adopted Chubbuck technique, which has been used in Oscar-winning and nominated performances. I could be here all night listing the incredible people that IVANA has worked with, but just to do some name dropping, because I don't get to do that very often, some people like Brad Pitt, Sylvester Stallone, Jared Leto, Halle Berry, Jim Carrey, and Jake Gyllenhaal are people who have benefited from this technique. And today we also welcome Christina Chong, who has studied with IVANA Chubbuck since 2007. And in 2018, IVANA asked her personally to come to LA to certify as an accredited Chubbuck coach for the UK. And today she's going to talk to you a little bit about how using this technique has helped her as a performer. But I'm going to start with the $1 million question. And I know, IVANA, you're probably smiling at me going, oh, this could take a whole day in itself, but can you all kind of give a brief description of the Chubbuck technique and how it differs from other techniques?
Well, we first start off on why I created this technique in the first place, and that is because I read so many books about acting, and so much was theory, and I wasn't sure exactly how to use this theory, as smart as it was and profound and special that it was. I just didn't know how to apply it. So I said, someone needs to write a book on real nuts and bolts, process on how to break down a script. And so I came up with, initially it was 14 steps. I boiled it down to 12 to make it a little more of an easier process, because we want to make it not more difficult for us. We want to make it easy for us to trigger us into those great places, great performances. So we go to that special place that all actors know as the zone. And this also works for writers and directors too. The zone belongs to all of us, directors, writers, and actors, because we all kind of go to that place when you're in the artistic mode. And so everything has math to it. And all the exercises and how to play drunk, how to feel like you're really organically pregnant, when you've never actually had that experience before, how to be a parent when you're not one, how to have true fear, how really where your eyes contract, where your heart beats faster and your skin becomes pale. There's all kinds of exercises in there that all have an equation to it to actually get to the places, the science of behavior, the science of psychology, and the science of cultural anthropology, and history of why people do what they do. And so all these, how I dealt with, in terms of the book, how I dealt with making sure that these exercises and patterns that I created through mathematical equations actually physically work on your body. is by taking my editor, who had zero interest in being an actor in the world of acting, and I made her do them. And when she actually felt it, then it was right. It was a process of like guinea pigging my editor. Okay, so that being said, the other reason why I felt that this technique needed to be brought to life and created was because when I was acting, I found all these techniques were bringing up all these kind of icky feelings and all these, like, it's deep and it's wonderful and it's totally useful to use in your work. But if you use it and you sit in it, it becomes depressing. And it's not just depressing for you, it's depressing for your audience. Nobody wants to watch somebody sit in their pain. Nobody does. Well, actually, I'll tell you who does. The person who's in pain. It's called a pity party. Pity parties are fun, that's why it's called a party. But anyway, it's a one-person show, right? It's a great you and you alone, you, yourself, and you. So I decided that all that pain that we're bringing up by the personalizations, that all the things that we first have to look at the character on the page. That this person is this person for this reason. We have to dig deep into the psychology of why a person does the things that they do, whether they're evil or good or whatever it is that they do. We have to find the reasons, the why. Why is I call it the power of why. But then once we dig into what the characters' issues are that make them do crazy and insane things, we have to personalize them so that we have all the colors and layers and densities that real people have, not just your imagination, but the stuff that we really have. But but my objectives in terms of like the first part of like the 12 steps is objective. Tell a story. We need to tell a story. We're not here to just sit in our bad thoughts and our traumas, our dramas, our insecurities, our fears. We're here to use that information to change that situation, to grow, to evolve, to overcome, and ultimately to get some version of catharsis for the character first, and then for yourself via your personalizations. And so it became something where, as I've been doing this over the years, I've found that people lives have changed by utilizing something that was normally a scary place to look at, that it became something that became gold, became embraceable. It became like this stuff, I don't want to feel this stuff anymore. And this is how I'm going to overcome and win whatever my objective is, first from the character's point of view, and then from the point of view of your personalizations. That somehow it's because we're using such important stuff to grow, change, evolve, and have catharsis with, that we ultimately find it bleeds into our real life and makes us stop being victims. We're going to be victimized. Life happens. Life happens, people will victimize you. However, I call it taking the victim out of being a victim. We don't have to allow people to take on their need to put us down or their need to destroy us, because we can just say, look, I can't change how you feel about me if that's how you feel about it, but I can change how I see it. I can change how I am going to explore the world using my insecurities, my fears, my dramas, my traumas to embolden me, to make me be fearless, because fear inspires fearlessness. If you see it that way, it is a choice. And how to do that? That's the technique. And that's the process of like doing workshops, studying, reading the book, being a part of like acting is a physical art form. You need to apply it. But as soon as I have any of my students start looking at this as, well, poor me, or feel sorry for me, I said, no, you're a survivor. You're going to win because of the pain and stuff that's happened to you. And good for you. And yay you, and applaud you for those very notions. And so that being said, I think that's the fastest way I can explain this. That was the short version, because I can go on. It could be like a daily moment. It takes 24/7. I'm going to pass this along to Chrissy, because Chrissy and I have had a long relationship from point of view of being an instructor, but also one of the reasons why I felt that she could be an important instructor, because our work together has changed her life on so many levels, both professionally and also, emotionally, just being a more empowered woman. And I love that.
So I obviously, like Mel said, I met you in 2007, and I was very young at that time, and I'd studied, the method here and there, and Stanislavski, but I hadn't really used it in a professional sense. And I remember at first you got straight to the core of and I hadn't done, I was very young at that time, hadn't done much work on myself. And you got to the core of it, and you were like, well, there's something going on there with your dad and your mother. And I was like, but at first I was like, what? No, but that's fine. It's perfect. My relationship, my mom, dad's perfect. No, I'm very happy. But you made me understand that, yes, okay, it might be okay on the surface, but that doesn't negate that there's an 8-year-old child inside of me who went through huge trauma, that I can use and in the work, and like Ivana said, to overcome and heal that wound via the work. And it's been so
But it never made you, it lightened your load. It
yeah.
didn't feel
So
like
what happened? Yeah.
the stuff Ivana started making me look at, because it actually, when you finally got, and it was like just one session, it doesn't take that long to go to those places to want to be a winner, because it's the hard part is trying to pump up all the stuff that makes you a loser. Nobody wants to go there.
No,
And so,
exactly. And you can spend hours doing that.
but the thing is that you became, it's like, I remember the first time that we worked together, it was so many years ago, but it's like, your whole presence got lighter. It's like, I could take this information and actually be able to become a more empowered person because of this.
And fast forward however many years it is, like the issues, my main issue was with my father. That was one of the ones that we worked on, and I used, and I still use in my work. But back then, when I would feel uncomfortable if my dad put his arm around me, it would feel weird. And I can now today very openly say I love my dad.
Oh, that's so cool.
Huge. For me to be able to feel.
I'm gonna cry now.
Yeah. It's been huge.
Relationship to heal before someone passes away,
And I couldn't say that before. It felt weird, So not only that, and also I just recently I was like, oh, do I need therapy? I was talking to some friends. I was like, maybe I should see if I need therapy. I went to 3 different therapists just in this last 3 weeks. I told them everything I knew about my childhood, about my life, which has all come from my work with Ivana. And they were like, no, we don't think you need therapy. I couldn't get a therapist to take me on. So like, and I tried 3 of them. So yes. So, and not only that, but also professionally, like obviously we've, I've always used your work. And at first we weren't working necessarily all the time together, but I think from about 2000, when I started doing American shows before my American shows on my CV, that's when I started working with you. I started booking big roles, supporting roles. And now I'm one of the leads in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And all of that is all thanks, to working with Ivana and using her technique. And doing the work, with this technique, you have to do the work. It doesn't come, for free. You have to, it's a 12-step, and really learning it. And to learn it for me was so exciting. Number one, like to really get into it and feel like this, everyone, if you look at the book, how everyone Ivana's worked with, she's the creme de la creme. So if you want to be, but but my thought was, when I first found you at the Actor Centre at the time, when that was still a thing, I was like, if I want to be the best actor I can be, where do I go? Mm-hmm. And so I looked it up. I was like, who is the best acting teacher? who is winning people awards. Not to say that awards is the be all and end all, but I mean, it's a barometer within our industry.
Yeah.
So not just winning awards, but who's getting jobs.
Yeah,
Who's
exactly. And I was
working
like,
right to
yeah.
see, you know.
And I was like, who is that? And it was IVANA CHUBBUCK. So that's when I was like, well, that's the person I need to work with. And I've stayed with you since 2007, and it's been incredible. And now I'm in Star Trek, and I have other things going on that IVANA's also helping me with a TV show that I'm writing, which is with a big production company in the UK, and IVANA's also helping me with that as well. So
Project, but it's all the same concepts, right?
yeah.
Which is the writer, the director, the actor have to write, they have to work together as a team. We are telling the same story. When an actor veers off or director veers off from what the story is supposed to be, it's like everybody has to share this vision. I remember doing Monsters Ball, where I had Mark Forrester, who's the director, and Hallie and me sitting on my couch, my living room, for like literally 7 hours, going scene by scene by scene, trying to like make sure that everybody was on the same page about like what it is that the director's vision was, because ultimately he's the captain of the ship, and what needed to be changed writing wise to make sure his vision and Hallie's vision were like telling the same story. That was an important story to tell. And I think what's really interesting, which I actually want to pass along to you, Chrissy, because I don't think I've ever told you this story before.
No.
That I couldn't understand why someone from Switzerland would want to direct a movie. Why would he need to direct a movie about racism in the South, in America, in the US? And he had said that his brother had committed suicide the year before. And to him, this wasn't a movie about racism. It was a movie about trying to understand death, trying to understand why his brother needed to kill himself, because he never knew that he was in that bad a shape. And he just, doing this movie was a profound and important way for him to truly understand why his brother made that choice. And I thought, me and Hallie, of course, this is, why people need to like kind of always get, we aren't having our own single journey, changed our minds and some of the things that we were thinking about, saying, oh, that is an incredible point of view on that. We played around with changing some of the things that we came up with, that we then had to try to figure out how to deal with her oppression, because as a Black woman in America, it doesn't matter how pretty she is. It doesn't matter that she didn't come from the South. There's a lot of oppression that comes from not only being Black, but also just being alive. But things happen. So we're using a lot of personal stuff. So what we did was, we ended up doing, there's a lot of I'm sorry's that were in there when she was having conversations with, in the original script of her conversations with Billy Bob Thornton. And I said, with what you said about understanding death, and that I'm sorry thing is saying, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. So we got to take that out, because it's two messages we don't want to give. One is a woman saying, I'm sorry to a man too much. And the other message is a Black woman saying, I'm sorry to a white man. So I said, these are messages, because if people watch movies and TV shows and theater, and they take home this stuff. So it's our duty as whatever it is that you're writing your script, which is very personal and a beautiful, beautiful idea, which is finding the reason why you need to say something that's going to change the world, empower the world, to be able to give every human being that watches it that I can take my issues and I can overcome and win, because and in spite of the things that have happened to me. So in terms of that story, there's another scene where she has to talk about her dead son, and it was very depressing. And so we and Hallie rewrote it with his good graces of saying this, I like this, the director, is that we wrote her big speech about like her son and made it about things she missed that were wonderful about him, not how she's mourning him, but how she's celebrating his life. And we ended up combining my life, my childhood and her childhood funny stories, created it as one. And so that the truth of us really missing this kid from a truthful but more enjoyable place for us as an audience, of saying, like, I'm not thinking about his being gone. I miss how alive he was when he was alive.
Christina, I was just going to, sorry, just to jump in, I just had a little quick question, because obviously a lot of us are, a lot of people watching today are performers. Was there a particular thing that you really struggled with this technique? Was there anything as you started to learn it that you were really challenged by? Or, you know, because obviously you spoke about, you know, you learned other techniques when you were studying. We know of them, but obviously this technique specifically spoke to you, and obviously how much it resonates. Was there anything that you thought, you know, goodness, this is a challenge for me?
To be honest, if I'm completely honest, I don't want to sound big-headed, but no, but it's not big-headed, because it's just such an easy technique for me to use. The thing that I did find the hardest was accepting that there were issues from my childhood, and that I could still use my parents in the work and the things that I'd experienced childhood trauma in the work, and it be okay to have a relationship with them in real life. But one thing that just occurred to me that I think might help other performers as well is that not only is this, well, it's 12 steps. It's very easy to follow. You can take the book, and I have friends who've taken the book, and, you know, who I've told about IVANA, and haven't been to a class and have still just taken the book and used it, and it's helped them in their work, their professional life, and helped them get jobs. But one thing that really struck me about the technique, is why I wanted to continue, is it makes your performance unique. In an audition, there will be nobody else who gives the performance you give, because if you really go deep and you use your gold, what IVANA calls, you know, your gold, your shiny stuff, and all that, you know, was staying on the positive here. It may look ugly, but actually it's your gift, it's your power that you have as a performer. And if you can really access that and use that in your auditions and in your work, then you have no competition.
That is, I mean, that's it, isn't it? Like, there's one thing, I remember, I think we spoke about it last time as well, take risks, never play it safe. Like, that's something that I find very interesting, having you know, advice sessions with a lot of our members and things like that. I think finding that uniqueness, I think that's the question that people ask. How do I stand out in a self-tape? Obviously, you know, IVANA, last time we spoke, we were kind of in the midst of just starting in the middle of a pandemic, and the world is very different. But I think that is very true, is that people want to have something or know a way to make it unique, to make it personal, and maybe don't have those tools in order when they get a script or they get the work, to then be able to, you know, work on it and find that uniqueness. So I think that's a really interesting point.
I'm going to try to simplify the unique quotient, because I used to be in casting, and I used to go like, how did 10 entirely different people give exactly the same reading? So it was how is that so? And you end up finding yourself going to sleep and like literally going like the next, and the person's doing exactly the same thing, the next is person, because they're trying to paper please, they're trying to please what they think the people want, but they just want to be woken up. I mean, literally, that's what happens. And they wake up and they go, oh, someone's doing something different than everybody else. And what makes the difference happen is you're using you, because you're unique. There's nobody else like you on the planet. There's billions of people on the planet. Each and every one is, I have 7 brothers and sisters. We're not alike, but we come from the same parents, the same city, same boring city in Michigan. And the same, a lot of sames, but we're really different. Our passions are different. Who we are, I think, who we are as what our motivations to be are different. And so it's just a uniqueness of bringing you to the party, and how you would say to yourself, given the circumstances of, because there's no characters, it doesn't have conflict. That wouldn't make sense, right? So no notion of drama is overcoming obstacles. And so you have to hit bottom, and then how do I get to the other side, and then have a crescendo of like everything hits the fan, and then denouement, a resolution. Just basic telling stories. And so if you tell a story from a depressing point of view, I'm going to get depressed watching it. So the idea of what wakes these people up is that I am taking it from a place of, I'm not going to let that make me self-destructive anymore. I'm not going to do self-loathing anymore. I'm done with that. It's time to take this very same stuff that's screwed me up and made me in some ways kind of a loser in life. And now I'm going to take it, and I'm going to try to win with the very same stuff, because pain is a very powerful fuel. It's a choice of how you deal with it. So you can wake people up by like, oh my God, I have the same stuff that this person's going through, because there's certain primal constants that exist in being a human being of what bothers us, what triggers us, and all the stuff. It's really, I've done workshops all over the world. It's the same everywhere. The same traumas and insecurities, same fears. It's bizarre. Every culture is different, but it's really the base of why we do things is the same. And so the idea of bringing your special self to how you would bring it up. Maybe you'd laugh in the wrong place. Sometimes people do that, go to a funeral and they can't stop laughing. It's like, we don't know. It's like the thing. And then I said this the other day to someone when we were working on, because the part was she just got her big starring studio movie role from the work that we did in her last movie. And so she has to be in fear a lot. And I said, fear looks different on everybody. And how we take in fear, but fear comes up a lot. But we don't want to play the typical fear, because then next, I call it swiping left when you were looking at auditions and self-tapes. It's like a dating app. Swipe left, 3 lines in, swipe left. So, oh, wait, someone's doing something interesting. I'm going to stay and watch this one. So the idea of bringing in, like, say, the fear factor from where you feel, how you put, in the book, there's a way to get to organic fear. And of course, these are the things that I would do in the workshop and when I teach classes and that kind of stuff, is that each, and sometimes I do it every single person. I'll go, okay, I'm going to do the exercise. It is really interesting to really look at how some people just freeze. They go into fight or flight. Some people cry, weep. Some people just become like, you can feel their heart beating fast and they become jittery. It's a really interesting with each and every person. I've been doing this exercise for years. It's like an entirely different end result. But that's just one aspect of life. I'm fear because it comes up a lot in movies and TV and stage. But it's like all those elements. Love looks different on everybody. Our feelings of abandonment or issues of of how we deal with someone who feels who's always putting us down all the time, and how we deal with that is like different than everybody else. And then how do we apply that? And it's simple, the 12 steps and all the different recipes, I call them, so how you can get to the map of do this, and then you'll really organically feel it. There's math in everything, and that's what Chrissy was saying. It's easy, because one of the things that I wanted to make sure of, so I took 4 years to write this book, that it was easy, that anybody can understand how to get to these really interesting places without having to work so hard. And then also not feel so bad, because we wanted, and so Chrissy's had a lot of revelations. Part of the thing that she's writing, she never would have been writing had it not been that, because part of what she's writing is going to be cathartic for her, and it's already caused catharsis. And so it's like all these things. It's like, and I think everybody, and I'm sorry to go on about this, but everybody should write, because everybody, there's so many platforms now, and they're looking for material. And I have so many people from my class in LA right now, so I just keep saying to them, write. They're making deals, because everybody's going, think about how many platforms there are. They're going, well, what do we put on there? And you write something for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's autobiographical, somewhat, you know, so anyway, I just wanted to motivate everybody who's watching. It's not just about waiting for someone to hire you. Make things happen, be proactive. It's very nature of the 12-step program. Chubbuck technique is about being proactive. Drive the scene. Don't just follow. Don't just respond. Don't just be reactive. Be proactive, because that's what makes people want to stop and watch you.
I think an interesting question we had in, because obviously a few people did submit questions before this, was and obviously, Christina, you've kind of touched on this, that, you know, there was stuff that you unearthed through this technique. And one of the questions was, how do you help actors balance your technique of using emotional pain and fear with their own kind of mental well-being as well? Is there, you know, when you're in the room, is there ways that you are able to help people with that?
Well, the thing is that the whole very, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you back me up on this. The whole essence, the whole philosophy of the technique is to take your pain and turn it into some version of prosperity. So how is it going to sit in a bad place? Because if you are, you're not doing it right. so Chrissy, thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. Look, I'm not saying that, you know, not to say, you know, that it's not necessarily a replacement for therapy or anything like that. But when you use that work in the technique, I'm an example of, I have come offset using my dad beating me as a kid. You know, my granddad abandoning me as a kid. My granddad was the closest father figure that I had as a kid. And used that in a scene. For example, Strange New Worlds, a lot of that, you know, has been using my dad, then using a breakup, a guy that I was in a relationship with, using him. And I was going through the breakup at that time, like IVANA was going through it with me, and we were using that in the work. And I would come off stage feeling incredible after using them in those scenes. Now, if maybe it was a different technique, if we were, say, using the method or something like that, like Ivana was saying at the beginning, I've studied the method, and, you know, you take a while to get there, you're in it, but it's not driving forward. You're not moving the energy in your body, those emotions, they're not moving forwards, they're staying, they're stagnant. But that's not what this, and if you're doing it right, then that's it. You should come off stage feeling elated
And lighter.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that there's a weight to those emotions, and it's weighty, and it makes you walk differently and move differently and eat differently, and there's a lot of self-sabotage in those end results of that. That's why whenever someone insists on, like, I just can't let it go, and I said, well, you know what? Do it anyway. Let it go anyway. Because if you're not having fun, you've made the wrong choices. How many times do I?
Yes, and that is so true. Sometimes you can get a little bit stuck thinking, oh, is it this person? You know, is it that person? And then that's always when you're not using the technique correctly. If it's not fun, it's not right.
I can't say that enough, because why do you not having a good time? And I think, and to explore who you truly are is fascinating. To explore why people do the things they do, not just from our own selves, but why did my mother abuse me? Why did my mother feel the need to call me ugly and stupid my whole life? Why did my mother decide to literally be violent? I mean, like, in a really, like, broken bones kind of way. You know, it's like, why did she do it? The more I understood via breaking down scripts and working with different kinds of characters, I started to understand why she was this person. And that's one of the reasons why Chrissy can say I love you to her dad, because he struggled. that he's not just, the end result wasn't just her problems with her dad and his behaviors towards her and her family. It was also, he was really screwed over as a boy. I mean, badly. He has much trauma, and so there's an empathy now that connects you, as opposed to takes away the relationship. It actually bonds the relationship, and also just it's we want to be able to walk away from our art feeling good, and if we're not feeling good, then why would you want to continue to do something like that? I love being able to say I gave the joy of someone's acting back to them. And one of the things why Sylvester Stallone came to me in the first place was he said, I feel like my work is atrophied. He's talked about this in the press before. He said, and I just feel like I just lost my joy in doing what I loved so much before. So we brought it back in Creed, and he got more awards than he even did on Rocky. And he's having a blast on Tulsa King, which is a wonderful show. And because he's using the technique of just like trying to win with his pain, as opposed to be victimized by his pain. That's how you take the victim out of being a victim. And that's even when I break down scripts for playing a killer or being killed, it's like, we're not killing or being killed, in terms of the normal sense of the word, but the energy that needs to be killed that will allow us to be able to move on and have a better life. So I call it energy kills. These are all things that it's not in the book yet. I'm supposed to be doing a rewrite of the, what was it called? This is the 20-year anniversary is coming up, and my agent just made a deal. There's so much new stuff I'm doing, but you can get in classes. It's not in the book, but the energy kills is like this very important new thing. The emotional diaries that bring up stuff really easy. All these things that aren't in the book, because it's been 20 years. I've learned a lot. I've grown. And I keep learning.
Do you have actors who maybe come to you and say, fortunate enough maybe not to, say you are playing a serial killer or something like that, and they say, but I've never had those kind of, I've never been in that kind of, I don't know that emotion. Like, how do I get into that? Is that something that you get from actors going, maybe, they haven't experienced certain trauma and things like that? Do they say, how do I access these emotions if I've never felt them before? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally. It's like that's where the energy kills come in, because they kill off say my mother's voice that tells me I'm stupid and ugly. I'm not killing my mother. I'm killing the voice. I'm killing the message. So, okay. So that's positive. So but I have to teach you how to do that, how to look at killing someone is not killing them. It's killing something that's causing you to suffer and to self-destruct. So how do we get past that? By killing that energy that does that. And where did it come from? So then it gets personalized, but not physicalized. So you're not thinking of that person's body in the ground, but you're thinking in terms of the energy that they were passing along. Again, I'm going to use my personalizations. Not you're stupid and ugly, and I've taken that with me. No matter, growing older. Becoming of the age where a lot of my friends have died, because I'm past 67, and I'm my dad died at 67. So many really important friends died, and they're, at 67. It was weird when I passed 67. I was like, so when I got to 68, I'm like, okay, I passed that milestone. But anyway, the idea is that that's just one important point of what my father never protected me. So I need to have him kill off in me. So if I'm the victim of killing, I'm going to have, he never protected me. So I need you to take off the kill in me, the part of me that needed you to do that. So I can take that on myself and protect my own damn self. And not put that on you, because that way takes away my ability to love him as much as I want to love him, because my father was a very good man and a gentle man. He just was sideswiped by wanting to help the world, and he was a civil rights attorney. He was helped create unions. He worked for the ACLU. He was a good man, and did free cases for people who didn't have money and that kind of stuff. So we didn't have money, but the thing, it didn't matter. The point is, it didn't matter because he was such a good guy. However, what you didn't see her hitting us. There's some of us. You didn't see her hitting us like horribly all the time. No, because he was never there. But we told him, why did you protect us? And so the thing is, I don't want to, it never changes when I use the idea of you are going to be my killer, my dad, but you're going to kill me, not me personally. You're going to kill me. The idea that I needed that from you, that I can do that for myself. So now I can take that killing moment, and so it feels good. I've given that to a lot of people who've had to do some really interesting death scenes, and how they either their careers changed by using that as the killer or being killed, or they won awards for it, or the careers changed around, because nobody thinks of like death scenes as, if you're dying, that that's a bad thing. So if we change the concept of that, make it energy kills, it's all of a sudden becomes this kind of profound moment of release.
Release. I think that's a really important word as well. And I just was reading, there was it's one of my favorite quotes is, I think you guys both referred to it a minute ago. Humor, even in the darkest of dramas, is important to bring into your work. You can't see the dark without the comparison to light. And I think that's really interesting, because I think a lot can be in a performance that we see a script and we see the dark, but you don't see the light as well. And there is always the light there. And I think that is really interesting.
Like we did that with Ivana, but in the last season of Strange New Worlds, my character is super serious, PTSD, traumatic, but there are several episodes there which, well, I mean, my character is hilarious in, and that's because
It's a very funny physical comedy stuff, but based in real dramatic thoughts, because you're funnier when funny comedy comes from deeper and darker and more desperate circumstances. So if you really look at whenever you've done the things, when you look back on and say, oh, that what I did was really funny, and you're laughing hysterically about it today, was tragic when it was happening. So that's what we did. And people were saying to her, saying like, you're so funny, because her character started off as just like, it was all about some of the most deepest trauma you could possibly conjure up. So these writers are wonderful. I love these writers. And but they conjure up the most interesting stuff. But the fact is that they understand comedy needs to be put in, no matter how dark something is, there needs to be that the light makes the dark darker. The dark makes the light lighter. It's like sitting in a dark room. If you just sit in that dark room, ultimately you're going to be able to see everything.
Yeah.
When
That makes sense.
When you turn it off again, it's like, oh, it's really dark in here.
And a question that we've just had come in is, what's the common thread you see in former as current students that have become successful actors through this technique? Is there something that you see in them and how they use the technique moving forward?
Well, I think that the idea is, it's called the work ethic. If you decide to sit on your laurels, you just accomplished all this stuff, it's going to bring you back down to be one of those people you say, whatever happened to, and it's like, you got to keep doing the work, and I remember Charlize Theron, because I've worked with her personally for a bit, but she said to me when she called me up about a question about something not that long ago, and she said, I haven't seen you personally, but I use the work. I do all the work. But she always did. She was that kind of a hard worker. She's like, she would be that person that she'd be shooting. She had 3 days left to go shooting. She would call me to get a scene partner for class, and then call one of her friends from class. So she's double working. And when if her set was wherever she was shooting was nearby the studio, she would like come for lunch with a sandwich in her hand in the back row and just watch for her hour's lunch. And it's like, you got to keep doing the work. And it's like the best people do the work and make risky choices, because you got to be bold in your choices. Otherwise, the end result is vanilla and safe, and nobody wants to watch safe. It's like I could climb a mountain. I could climb Mount Everest, or I could climb a hill on a sunny day. I'm still trying to get to the top, right? But one is one I want to watch and participate in. The other one is who cares. And so what we want to do is continue the work no matter. I mean, God, the people, especially in Europe, don't really get how many big actors. I mean, I'm talking European actors too, like big, stars. They have coaches. They haven't stopped working on their stuff. And so it's like everybody who says, well, I just go to drama school and that's enough. It's like, it's not enough. In the same way, you wouldn't go to look, things keep growing. Art should always keep growing. When you look at like even the path of Picasso, what he started off with and where he ended up, there's all kinds, they call it this period and that period. Well, that's him morphing into different, ideologies, or what his visions and how he sees the world through his paints and his and the colorations and the figuring and the shapes that he's putting together. It's helping him tell a story of where he's at in the world right now. And so you got to keep growing, and you can't keep growing if you play it safe. This is where the bold things come in. This is where Chrissy is a very brave woman, because she jumps right in. I never have to say like, it'd be okay for you to do this. It says, hello, I'm in. I'm going for it. And it's funny that like all the people that I knew as like were living out of their cars and that now live in mansions and are super famous are people who just like they wanted to take chances. They some of the crazy stuff that comes out of my mouth to tell people to do, and Chrissy knows this very well. It's like it goes, well, we'll try this. This could be cool. It's just the idea of like, you gotta try anything. There's nothing you should never censor yourself.
Isn't that a key thing I think of in life as we get older? We get embarrassed. We get, if we go back to being a child, we will try anything, won't we? We don't mind being silly. Having fun and being silly is part of that. Whereas as we get into teenage, adolescent, we lose that side of taking risks. Like we don't want to embarrass ourselves in front of other adults. And that's what makes us so safe, isn't it, really? That we just don't want to take those risks in front of others. And I think that's what's exciting about your technique, is obviously you are taking those risks, you're pushing those boundaries as well.
What I'm doing is telling people act from the place of a child, which I think it was very wise of you to bring that up, because I said, if you're thinking from your adult head and that's boring, think from your 8-year-old head, who like you give a box to a child. That box becomes a race car. The box becomes a rocket ship. The box becomes the middle of the earth. The box becomes Mars. The box could be anything, right? When you become an adult, the box is a box, and what do you do with the box? You throw it away.
Yeah.
So the thing is that all of a sudden, all the things that box can do is something we want to bring into how you play out a role, or write one or direct one from the point of view of being an 8-year-old child. Because when you start getting into another number in front of it is when you start to rationalize, deny, change the narrative of what happened, start getting excuses, letting people off the hook. Little kids don't. That doesn't mean they love whoever's hurting them a lot. It just means that they just get that you're hurting me right now, and I don't want to get hurt. So I'm going to try to change this. I'm going to have a tantrum,
Yeah.
So it's like, so we want to have that simple, urgent, focused need that's always so fun to watch, because it does create a playfulness too.
Definitely. And obviously just behind you, I'm sure people are aware, but obviously there is the book that we have been referring to, just in case anyone is going, what's going on? We've spoken about it. Power of the Actor is just behind, as you can see on IVANA. So there is that that you can nicely displayed just there. But I just thought, it's a good place really to also say that we're very, very excited for this announcement. And IVANA will be joining us in October at the Park Theatre in London to run her 2-day masterclass. So tomorrow we'll be emailing all members with details of how to purchase tickets. It's a paid event, but there will be an exclusive discount for Spotlight members. So I just thought, you know, obviously, Christina, just here now, just with everyone, you know, there's a kind of observation tickets as well, isn't there? And I just wanted you to kind of say why, you know, people, you know, this technique, it's so hard. It's so, this is a wonderful hour, don't get me wrong, but it's so hard to describe this in an hour, isn't it? What will this masterclass, what will being part of that, what will being there mean to those actors?
I mean, number one, on a practical level, if you're looking at flying to LA, accommodation in LA, food in LA, that's thousands and thousands of pounds. To have the opportunity to spend, forgive me, I don't remember how much the tickets are, and I don't want to misquote, but a fraction of that price to either observe or even participate with IVANA. The 2 days are absolutely jam-packed. I've done this intense masterclass, I don't know how many times now, almost every time IVANA's been to London. And you will not only learn how to apply what's in the book on a deeper level, you'll also learn techniques that aren't even in the book that IVANA's always coming up with. And that's what I love about working with her all the time on my personal stuff. So she'll try new things, or she'll, oh, I came up with something new, try this, put this in. And it, you know, so, and not only
it's really important about the interactive auditing. This is not, this is called active auditing. You don't just sit there and watch. You do all the exercise. You're doing the same stuff with them. I talk to you. I will say what came up for you on this. Let's work on the chemistry exercise. Everybody does the chemistry exercise. Everybody does the emotional diaries to open up their inner places from a place of empowerment. Everybody does the fear exercise. Everybody, it's very, very interactive. And I often get from people, emails from people all over the world, so just people actively auditing, who are saying that it's like, this has changed my life. Mm-hmm. And I just booked a role with I just booked the first lead in my life the next day after doing your workshop. Or it's changed my life in a way that made me understand that all the things I thought were my problem areas were actually the things I want to embrace. Thank you for making me see this is my goal as an artist. But it's very interactive. And that's what people don't understand. I don't do what most acting teachers do. I wouldn't want you just to sit there. I want you to be a part of it, because like, I wouldn't want to just sit there. I get bored so easy going to things. So yeah. I'm not going to put you in the same place I don't want to put myself into when I get bored. So this is not
almost sometimes I learn, I mean, obviously to apply the technique is something in its own ball game, but I learn sometimes more from watching, because you've not got the thoughts of like, oh, I need to get up and perform. Sometimes watching, you just pick up things that you wouldn't have thought of if you were participating, and you get 8 scenes to watch. It's not just one scene, 8 different, you've got 16 people up there, 16 different stories, 16 different unique examples of applying that to different scripts. And you'll come away feeling really, really inspired to put it into practice yourself.
I think I just wanted to obviously explain what, you know, that observation ticket would be, because when you read it, it's a little bit of a slightly different thing than, you know, some of our members will have had. And I didn't want them to think, as you rightly have said, IVANA, that they would just be sitting there and, you know what, it's so interactive and you get a part of it. And I think that is so important to say, because I think I could just see people reading it and going, well, what do you know, I just sit and it's like, no. So I just wanted you both to reiterate how important that can be, and listening, as that's such a fundamental skill as an actor, and watching, observing, it's, you know, fundamental part of it.
Observing than you think. It's really active. I mean, you really are doing everything. So it's like it's one of the things, like if I see someone not doing an exercise, I'll walk up to them and say, do the exercise. Yeah. I'm looking at everybody. So everybody's involved. This is not, it's not an, I even hate to use the word observing, because it's not, it's why it's called, I call it active auditing, because you're actively doing stuff all throughout the thing. Oftentimes I'll say, okay, so what do you guys think the overall objective would be in this? I mean, to give all the things that I came up with, said this story is about this, and this. What would make sense? And then people start throwing stuff out. I mean, it really is interactive.
Yeah. And I think that's, just so important to say. And, if you would like to be a participant, there is also that option to say that on the ticket, but obviously participant tickets are very, very limited. So I just want to manage people's expectations there as well. And, we will be in contact if you are lucky enough to get one of those slots. But this is an exclusive. This is so exciting. I can't honestly explain. I first met IVANA, as I said, 2020 online, and I've looked at things and listened to a lot of podcasts, and to actually be able to have you over here, in the UK is going to be absolutely incredible, and just an absolute thrill. I'd say bring on October, but obviously I don't want to wish my life away, but it's going to be a very exciting month for sure. Is there anything else you both wanted to say about today, or kind of like the masterclass coming up in October?
Thank you for writing. Sorry.
I've come back to London for so long. I'm so happy.
I just want to say thank you for writing the book, IVANA.
Like, enjoy it.
No, it's literally my Bible. I have several copies. There's one in Canada, there's one here that's falling to pieces. I've had so many throughout the years because I take them everywhere with me. And I need to, what do you call it? Put a cover on it.
But here's the thing about Chrissy, thank you for being a part of my life. You've been a very, very important part of my life. You're my friend, not just a student. We both tell each other our stuff. I do this to everybody, so that that this is a friendship connection. Never make me a guru. I'm your friend. We've all suffered this together as a team. We be empowered, make ourselves feel like we can win anything we want. Give ourselves the joy that nothing ever is going to stop you from doing that, except for death. And I'm still bound and determined to figure out how to pass that one too. That can't be the end. There's got to be something else, But Chrissy, thank you for being such a good friend, and for
thank you.
Pieces together, because you're the one that put together Mel and Jamie and Spotlight. So, and thank you for believing in me, to want to bring me out there to London to do this wonderful workshop.
Amazing. So just to reiterate to everyone, tomorrow we'll be emailing all members with details of how to purchase tickets, and it's a paid event, but there will be an exclusive discount for Spotlight members, so do keep an eye out on the email for that. This masterclass is being offered separately to our open house event. So obviously today is part of our kind of digital open house, and we've got many more online events coming up. So if you sign into your account, your Spotlight account, there should be an events tab. It should say upcoming events, and you can see everything that's coming up in the next few months. Jamie has organised some incredible things, so do book onto them. All the online events, there's no limit on tickets. You can have one ticket for each online event, so do make sure you book yourself in for them. And I mean, all I can say is, IVANA and Christina, like this session, I knew it was only gonna be an hour. I was kind of worried about how to even start this, because this topic is so vast, but hopefully this has given everyone just a little bit of a taster of things. Obviously the book is fundamental. That is something that needs to be bought and read. Even if you aren't want to participate in the masterclasses, this book is really incredible. I speak about this as not an actor as well. I've read it and it really is phenomenal in itself, in its own right. So thank you for joining us today. I was about to say this evening, but obviously all different time zones, so you probably got the day ahead of you. And also all of you for being here today as well. I know we didn't answer everyone's questions, but you know, it's been wonderful to have you all here with us, and thank you so much, and see you in October.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.